Is Maul grooming me? Like, why does the dark side sound right? Like, not morally right, but it's convincing me. Like, if you sit here long enough and you start to go, I see your point. But is that what Star Wars is really trying to say? Villains don't fight, they recruit? Like I said, am I being groomed? This and so much more coming up right now on Pink Milk. It's time to drink up. Hello, hello, hello. This is Brian, and you are listening / watching Pink Milk, your Star Wars podcast where we go deeper than lightsaber battles. Whose hilt is whose? We go and talk Star Wars on deep levels, all through a queer perspective. So if you like your Star Wars with a little snark, a little sass, a little bit of shade, and a whole lot of queer chaos, this show may be for you. So hello there. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are in chapters 3 and 4 of Maul, Shadowlord. And can I just say that like Star Wars animation is peak Star Wars? Like Maul is cooking right now. As the kids would say, Maul is cooking. I don't think we've ever seen Maul quite like this, to be totally honest. He's not quite as angry. He seems to have buried that chaos that I know is boiling there. Maybe now that his little knee is broken. Spoiler alert. The chaos is going to leak out now, but he's kind of calm. And that's what's making him feel maybe a little more dangerous this go round than we've ever seen him. It feels like a Maul that maybe has accepted the outcome. Order 66 happened. Sidious did Sidious. The Emperor won. The Republic fell. The Jedi are almost all gone. Like, he tried warning everybody about this. Like, the last time we saw him, he tried to get Ahsoka to take his hand. She almost did until she said something about Sky Guy, and then Snips was having none of that. So is he like stepped into his power? Like, look, bitches, excuse me. Look, everyone, I was right. And you should have listened this whole time. He is no longer an apprentice. He is no longer Sith. He is just Maul. I think maybe he's just stepping into his power. This is my boss era. He's like into his boss era. And also maybe he's got some of that Uncle Iroh energy of confidence through tea, because that tea scene was wild. Nothing is happening, and like everything is happening. There was so much tension in that entire scene. Like, let's be honest, that was like Andor level tension of quiet but boiling. Maybe that's actually what Maul's all about. Maybe that chaos is just a simmer. He's not boiling at this moment. I feel like he's not really reacting, and Maul is always about the chase and then the reaction. I mean, he does lots of running into battle and then the first one to run out of battle. Let's be honest. But right now, he feels like he's controlling every room he walks in, and I'm kind of here for it. I love it when a gay boy steps into his power. It's great. But yeah, I think this is incredible because controlled villains are always like really scary. They're a very specific type of villain, and that's a side of Maul that we haven't seen. So we are getting some growth here. I kind of like it. Contradictory to what I said last time, but he's the calm one. He's the controlled one. And historically, these are the scariest. Like, think about Breaking Bad. Our Moffin Top Gideon back then was Gus, and he was on the surface just a polite little businessman running his little fast food chain. Something with the chicken. I'm blanking right now. You Breaking Bad people, let me know down in the comments below. He smiles at every customer, and he's like, he's pretty composed, and he's like, there ain't nothing fishy going on here. But he's one of the most calculated criminal minds probably in all of television. Actually, so is Moffin Top Gideon. So let's just say, way to go. Way to go. Underneath all of that isn't his chaos. It's his precision. It's similar to the ISB. Everything is controlled. Everything is intentional. And another character that feels a lot like that is our fan of fava beans and a nice glass of Chianti. Yes, that is my Hannibal Lecter impersonation from Silence of the Lambs. Hello, Clarice. He is always soft-spoken. He's highly intelligent. Dude commanded the entire room from a cell, but he was almost polite and completely detached from morality. Then we have someone from one of my favorite heroes ever, but we have Harvey Dent from Batman, Two-Face, our Two-Face. Sometimes I think that character's actually scarier than the Joker, the most famous of all of Batman's rogue gallery, where Joker is just off the wall, which is what makes him scary because of he like really doesn't care. But like Two-Face, like kind of to me, knows what he is doing is wrong and puts all of his decision making into the coin flip. Every decision he has made is governed by chance, and that is very scary. Another show, this is a gay podcast after all, that I quite love about villains that on the surface are one thing, behind it is another, are maybe our girls from Claws. Pull a little Claws action. If you ever saw Claws, it's messy, it's chaotic, it is so gay and so wonderful. I miss it. It was great. But underneath that messiness, underneath all of that chaos, there was this structure. That show is about money laundering and stuff like that through a nail salon. And Desna was the main character, the protagonist of that show, excuse me. And she was just trying to survive while balancing loyalty, making her way through betrayal and the up and down shifting of power, excuse me. And on top of all that, it's very emotional. There are real systems running everything. Is Maul that system? Is the crime syndicate the system? Is it still the Jedi is the system? Is it the Empire the system? Who's controlling it from underneath? I mean, if it's our boy Palpatine, let's be honest, it's probably Palpatine. It's always Palpatine in Star Wars. Always. He somehow always returns. But just because things look chaotic on the surface, are the people really in control? Do they know exactly what they're doing? I think so. Chaos is diversion. I mean, I'm not saying we're seeing anyone like that sitting in a big house that's currently being remodeled that just tweets random chaotic things and constantly changes the conversation whenever it might need to be changed, and it might look erratic. It might look like someone is possibly unhinged. I hear that word almost every morning on the news, but is that person unhinged, or are they actually in total control? And sometimes, like, what would be scarier? I don't know. So yeah, that's enough politics for this, I guess, right? I don't know. If you're listening to this, I'm holding a pink microphone. You probably know where I stand. But Star Wars loves these moves in the dark side. And after our tease scene, we got something out of a horror movie. It reminded me very much of Alien, something I love dearly. Maul was like a xenomorph just hanging out there in the shadows with a very famous Star Wars, the join me speech. Join me, father and son, husband and wife, grandpa and granddaughter. It's always about the join me speech, whether it was Palpatine, Vader, now Maul. And kind of what's crazy every time, maybe not Luke and Vader so much, even though maybe a little bit in Return of the Jedi, but it almost always works. There was Maul and Ahsoka, just like it almost works. And that is what we, I think, respond to. I think that might be why we like them. Is it the darkness that is speaking to us? Is it the villain's confidence in their belief system? I don't know, because being drawn to the dark is just something that I think humans might be and might do. I don't know. There's like actual studies on this, and it's connected to this thing called the Dark Triad: narcissism, manipulation, the lack of empathy. Even though, answer this wherever you're listening. Does Maul lack empathy? Because I don't know. I don't know. I'm on the fence. We need to have a conversation somewhere. Does Maul lack empathy? But people often, like people in dark power, people on the dark side, the Sith rulers, all of those people, all of those same traits, narcissism, manipulation, and a lack of empathy, kind of come across as confidence, decisiveness, making them feel a little charismatic, which is like, maybe that's what we're drawn to, is the charisma, the uniqueness, the nerve, the talent. Maybe they're just serving that on the runway. if you will. But research shows something interesting. People tend to believe villains are secretly good on the inside. That's definitely true with our mechanical lung, our more machine now than man. The Maul, I don't know if there's anything good inside that dude. I don't know. But people tend to believe that the villains are secretly good. I do think there's a lot of us actually who watch Star Wars who are understanding of how Maul got to where he got. He was really, really, really betrayed by Palpatine. And I do think there is a level of we hate Palpatine so much that even what he did to Maul kind of comes across as like, how dare you? And maybe we are a little bit protective of our horny gay ace queen. I don't know. Maybe. But more often than not, heroes always good, but our villains sometimes with their uniqueness, their nerve, their talent, try to convince us that our heroes are actually the ones that are secretly bad. I mean, look, ever since the prequels, ever since they doubled down on this idea in the Clone Wars. I just watched the Mandalore Siege arc again at the end of Clone Wars. I mean, little gay boy me and a crazy religious powerhouse always gave me like vibes. But I think even modern audiences now, there is a level of the Jedi that we question. And I don't think we would question the Jedi if our boy, our old man, Palps, didn't convince us that maybe there was something off. Vader himself started to make us think that something was kind of off with the Jedi. And now there is like a larger voice in the fandom that questioned the Jedi and were they right? Were they wrong? Is balance actually not having either the Sith or the Jedi? Like where does that come from? Probably our boy Palpatine. And that's kind of cool as far as I'm concerned. I think a lot of times we watch villains and we hope that they get redeemed. I don't think, well, we know Maul doesn't get redeemed. Maybe in that last little whisper of is he the chosen one? Is there like a level of redemption there? I don't know. I feel like that last duel between Maul and Obi-Wan could probably be broken down and critiqued and explored in so many different ways and with a lot of different perspectives. That would be actually something very fun to do on a podcast here, maybe someday. I don't know. But I think that could be interesting to watch. And I think we know Maul ain't going to be redeemed. Not happening. But our girl could be redeemed. And I think that is where that scene worked so well. Is she going to be recruited? Is she going to fall? Is she not? What does that like look like for our girl Devin? Is she going to accept his hand in that moment? We now know the show's over. She didn't, but doesn't mean she won't. Is she going to be turned? Because if she turns, can she be redeemed? In my last podcast, I talked about this being an opportunity to see where Rey was going to be able to go. And I wish we had gotten a scene to see her actually turn, not weird, crazy shark girl. No yellow eyes, but sharp teeth. Dumb. I wish we could have seen her turn and watched her redemption. I think that would have been more interesting personally than Ben, but I love Ben. Why didn't we get more Ben Solo? He was great. Like, oh my God, great. Want to see that character and some more Dark Rey. Like, that would have been awesome. But anyway, I think that is where Dark Side speeches work because they're part of us sitting here going, but is the villain right? Like, especially now with Maul. Like I think it was episode 2. Maybe it was episode 2 where Maul, like point blank, calls Devin out for being indoctrinated, adopted, persuaded, whatever by the evil Jedi by the time when she was just a child and now she has a choice. Like I said, Palpatine's gotten us all to question whether or not the Jedi were good, fully good. They're definitely not the villains, but it doesn't make them right. And now we have Maul, calm, cool, collected, Hannibal Lecter version of Maul over here kind of convincing us that maybe Devin should join him. I don't know. It's great. It's just like he is just reeking of confidence. And when someone fully owns who they are, it changes the room. Confidence is powerful. And can it be dangerous? Sure. let's be honest. Like, as a queer person, as someone who came out and came up in the 90s, I am a little short to be a stormtrooper. I'm not a big dude. However, I learned real quick to step into my queerness, step into that power. I think I sometimes faked it until I made it because the real world was dangerous. And I learned to be really confident. Really confident. Sometimes that full on came across as arrogance, intimidating to some people. Sometimes I'm aware of this. However, that was my way to survive. And I think a lot of villains, when you're hanging out with crime syndicates, you have to be really confident because that confidence does exude power, even when it's dangerous, which is pretty cool. So that's kind of what we got during that whole hide and seek peekaboo xenomorph moment. Maul's not chasing, he's playing. He was like a Nexu. He was like the little kitty cat taunting that poor little mouse, Devin. There was no fight. He was just full on being a predator. And it was a creepy. And I was here for it. It was so quiet. I think I was genuinely like, I mean, I'm a baby when it comes to being scared, but I was genuinely kind of covering my eyes a little bit. I'm confident enough. I am with, but maybe the dark side isn't powerful because it's evil. Maybe it's powerful because it's certain. But is the dark side more decisive than the good side? I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know. Let me know. What do you actually think is more powerful? Or what makes the dark side more powerful? Because isn't the dark side more powerful? Isn't that kind of the moral, that the dark is where you will succeed quicker, but you choose good because it's the right thing to do? I don't know. It's very interesting. It's very cool.
Climb into the electronic Naboo fighter and clash with the Trade Federation. Climb into the electronic Naboo fighter and clash with the Trade Federation. You're Anakin Skywalker, hurtling into battle against an overwhelming droid fighter assault.
I know we're in trouble, just hang on!
Naboo is getting pounded. You managed to take one down. Only 2,000 more to go. You haven't experienced Star Wars until you've flown the electronic Naboo fighter. Droid fighters sold separately, batteries not included.
And you know what power also exists in? Families. And that's where we are heading next, because Star Wars isn't always just about lightsabers. It isn't always just about the Force. It's about parents. And let's be real. Like, how bad do parents mess things up? I'm Brian. This is Pink Milk. And I am a dad who doesn't ever understand about messing anything up, because this father right here is perfect. And I've never done or said anything the wrong way ever, right? I'm just kidding. Don't ever take me too seriously here on this show. But there is a pattern in Star Wars. There's Maul, there's Sidious. Now we have Devin and Eco Dio. We have Riley and Captain Lawson. All these random families, fathers and siblings, or fathers and their children, feels very intentional in this show. I don't think it's random at all. I think there is a pattern here. And I do think that that is something that has existed for a very long time. Star Wars always loves to go back to Greek mythology. There's something deep in Greek mythology storytelling that really carries people a long way, because it's just so old. In ancient Greek mythology, family is never safe. It's power, it's prophecy, it's fear. Oedipus is born into a prophecy tied to his father, where tragedy is unavoidable no matter what he does. Cronus fears being overthrown, so he consumes his own children to maintain control. Yummy. I wonder if Grogu would do that. Zeus rises into power and immediately enters the conflict with his own family. These stories weren't just entertainment. They were ways to explain what happens when power exits inside a family system, and what happens when it refuses to be stable. I can speak to this as a dad, for sure, with not one, not two, but 3 boys from 12 to 16 right now. There are emotions all over the place. I see 155 preteens every single day in a classroom right now at the time of recording. You know, we're in our last stretch of the school year. We've got one left. And let me tell you, keeping things stable is not quite as easy as it used to be. So there really is power dynamics all of the time, not just obviously I'm a teacher, I'm not a parent, but in that school setting, don't teachers in a way kind of like fulfill a parent role, right? There's like a authority, and then there are those people who need to listen to that authority, and children love to challenge that because that is what they are supposed to do. And I think that is a lot of what like mythology and ancient religions in general, ancient teachings do. It is a way of creating grandeur and spectacle in stories to help families, help children understand boundaries, how far they can and cannot go. All of these things are tied together. All of these things have always happened in Star Wars, and I love it. And I think it works because of psychology, because it hits us in our first relationships, which are usually our parents, for the good or the bad. But that's the blueprint. Hopefully, it's for everyone. It's not always, unfortunately, but trust, safety, and identity are so tied up into our young childhood with our parents. So when that breaks, it doesn't feel like story tension for story's sake. It feels really personal. Even families, and again, Star Wars is spectacle, right? It's over the top. It's corn, ball, cheese. A lot of the times, at least the Star Wars that I love is always corn, ball, cheese. But wrapped underneath all of that spectacle is something real, even if you have great relationships with your parents or your teachers or your siblings or anyone. There have been moments where it wasn't great because humans are going to human and we don't always totally get along. So there's real connection there in story. And I still to this day, even no matter how old you are, we go to stories, especially things like fantasy or science fiction, two things that Star Wars kind of lives in together, right? Are our way to process some of our own feelings, but in the back of our brain where it's like a little less scary and it's you're being honest without being direct with yourself. So let's think of some failed fathers. Like Sidious didn't just train Maul, he used him. We discussed that earlier in this episode. He discarded him. It wasn't mentorship. He literally exploited our boy. And now Maul exists inside that cycle, just like Devin does. Devin is all about identity wrapped in power. So whose power is she going to dress up in? Is it going to be Maul? Is he going to be able to break the power that her uncle has, right? Or is our hero going to win? It's really interesting. It's exciting to see what is going to happen there. So as of right now, Devin is like kind of our hopeful archetype, right? She's similar to Ahsoka. She's similar to Luke. She understands that the Jedi weren't 100% right, but she still wants to believe in what they stood for because even though, no, they weren't 100% perfect, their values were good. How they went about like sharing those values with others, that's up for debate, maybe a little bit, right? But that's what's interesting about Devin. That's what's powerful. And that is what is so uniquely Star Wars. I love a Star Wars formula. The show's going to follow a Star Wars formula. Hopefully, let's break it a little bit here or there. But at the end of the day, it's hopeful. And at least in the actually Andor too, like Andor and Maul share something really wonderful and beautiful. Whereas Star Wars had always been about the dark side is what's dangerous. But now Maul and in Andor, hope is what's dangerous. And it's great. It makes like the hope being the rebel, the radical middle fingers up per people, right? It's awesome. It's awesome. And I think that is what Maul is doing here, right? Let's see how high up our Maul, our Sisyphus, can push that boulder up the hill before it falls again. Is it going to fall multiple times in this series like we've always seen it? Maybe not. I hope not. Like, let's see a slow build up that hill. That would be really cool, actually. So I don't know. I'm excited to see where Devin and Maul go together because it feels a little bit different and it's breaking Star Wars repetition a little. I think we will end up where Star Wars always ends up, but as of right now, It's not.
Star Wars. Yoda's Jedi power is in your hands with the new Yoda electronic lightsaber. Real movie sound effects. Light up blade. Now you can wield the power of a true Jedi Master. Star Wars electronic lightsabers. Each sold separately. Batteries not included.
And you know what also isn't right now? The season finale. Even though these 2 episodes completely and totally felt like a season finale. And now politics, war, and the return of complexity that we had in the Clone Wars, we're already here in like not even halfway through this season. So I'm very, very excited about that. Politics and Star Wars have pretty much always gone together. By the prequels, politics was capital W, capital A, capital S, was Star Wars. And I'm here for it. Again, if you're just tuning in, my name is Brian. This is Pink Milk, and we are happy to have you here on our little queer Star Wars show. So I think the turning point for Maul happened at the very end of this episode, right as that gigantic Star Destroyer zooms in. We have, what's her name, Grease, our bounty, our Mandalore. Something's happening. It was so good. It was so creepy. But it's about to become something entirely different than a dark side show about lightsabers and force powers. It's about to become political. And just as the prequels weren't just Anakin's story, and I know George did a lot of editing to try to make it Anakin's story, but those were also stories about a democracy collapsing in real time. And we're sadly living far too close right now to the Revenge of the Sith. But Palpatine, while we get some creepy screaming and some twirly action, Palpatine doesn't really win Star Wars through combat. He wins it through fear and manipulation, and the manipulation of systems, the government and the Jedi and the clones, and manipulating all of those people literally is how he won. And maybe that's what Maul's doing right now with the crime syndicate. Wouldn't it be great? Oh my God, what if Maul can somehow convert some of these Imperials into following his thing? What if some of the Inquisitors, I don't even know. Can Maul play chess the same way as Palps did? I don't know, but I'm here for it because Star Wars animation is peak Star Wars. As I've said before, it's totally cooking right now. And let's see if Star Wars can do what the Clone Wars did and expand on those systems, on those manipulations even further, showing corruption, war profiteering, and the Jedi Order losing their moral clarity now in the post-fall of the Republic. Like, let's see, can Maul convince Devin that the Jedi were totally wrong? Like, this is why shows like Game of Thrones and Andor worked so well, because there was real tension. It isn't just action. It's power shifting between systems. We keep talking a lot about power and a lot about systems because that is what Star Wars is all about. Like, who's going to do the controlling of the power? The good guy, the rebellion, the empire, the dark side, the light side. Who's going to control what? Order 66. I mean, we went right into that. Again, like I said, I just watched the Siege of Mandalore and the clones. Who's going to control Order 66? Palpatine or the clones themselves? It was so good. For a while, it felt like Star Wars was stepping away from politics. Around the 2015 mark, at the sequel trilogy era, politics got really soft and everything became really simple. It was really just about good versus evil, about family and things like that, and found family. But now it feels like complexity is coming back. And honestly, for me, that's so incredibly exciting because politics in Star Wars isn't boring. It makes it feel real. It is part of the fiber of Star Wars. We talk about Star Wars being a lived-in universe a lot. It's not clean, it's dirty. But I also think the smell of government corruption and rebels standing up against that is also part of that real world grit that grounds the fantasy of lightsabers and the Force. And it turns the Force not into just a mythical superpower, but it also it's like, may the Force be with you, is also just may hope be with you. May something be with you that is outside of political control. It's great. So I think what seems to be forming now is the police, the crime syndicates, the Empire, the Jedi, and that can create chaos, or can it create competing systems of power? And what is that? What is that going to look like? Because I'm really curious. We haven't really been able to see this 100%, but we know the Inquisitors are coming. We know the internet is a buzz about the Crow, and I'm a 90s boy. I love the Crow. So let's go rock and roll, dude. Wait, I guess that's a different Crow. I don't know. Wouldn't it be great to see that Crow play a guitar? That'd be pretty cool. Maybe underneath that, he's got some like goth makeup on. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. But I'm wondering if the power struggle in the Empire, like actually, let's go back to A New Hope when Vader is sitting there talking to all of the Imperial commanders, and they're like making fun of him for his old ancient religion. Is that where this is going to start? Are the Imperials going to like be turning their nose up to the Inquisitors a little bit? Like, I don't know. I can't wait. I really want them to be an active power in this show. The Inquisitors, the duels are going to be really exciting. The hype is totally real. And I think it really is going to be able to tie back to Ahsoka. Star Wars animation is just so good. And this show is remembering what Star Wars animation can really do. Political power, political consequences. And that is why Star Wars animation is peak. If you agree, make sure you listen more. Hit the notification bell wherever you might be listening to this. Subscribe wherever you are listening. Leave a comment. Find me on Threads and Instagram at Serving Pink Milk. And until next time, let's drink.
Prepare to receive cargo.
Kenner's Slave One comes with frozen Han Solo.
Is Han Solo completely frozen stormtrooper? Yes, Boba Fett.
Action figures each sold separately.
Place him in the prisoner retention unit.
Slave One has a rear loading ramp,
Prepare for takeoff. Check.
movable cannons, and gravity-operated wings that trigger lock.
On to Jabba.
Slave One with frozen Han Solo from Kenner's Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back collection. Action figures each sold separately.